So, good afternoon. As clerk, I will formally start the meeting before we elect a chairman. I confirm this meeting is being held in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003 and the Licensing Act Hearing Regulations 2005, which allows councils to make their own arrangements for licensing subcommittees to hearing matters in connection with premises licenses. I'll go to each subcommittee member to confirm that they can hear and be heard. So if you can verbally confirm that you are able to hear me, and I will confirm in response that I can hear you. Where practicable, please also have your camera switched on so that you can be seen by other members in attendance and the public watching. So, Councillor Paul Andrews.
Good afternoon all. Yes, I can hear and see you clearly.
Brilliant, thank you. Councillor Polly Andrews.
Good afternoon. Yes, I can hear and see you all.
Perfect. And Councillor Tony Johnson.
Good afternoon. I can hear and see you clearly.
Brilliant. I'd also like to request that officers who will be present throughout the meeting also confirm that they can hear and be heard. So Emma Bowl, Licensing Technical Officer.
Good afternoon. I can hear and see you.
Brilliant. And Alice McAlpine, the Legal Advisor to the Subcommittee.
I can see and hear you. Thank you, James.
Perfect. Thank you. So as the standing chair of the Licensing Subcommittee has stepped down, the first item of business is to elect a chairperson for this meeting. Could I please have a nomination?
I will nominate Councillor Paul Andrews.
And is that seconded?
And I will second that.
Brilliant, thank you. Councillor Paul Andrews is confirmed as the chairperson for this meeting. I will now hand over to Councillor Paul Andrews.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you. Good afternoon all. I would like you to welcome everybody to today's meeting. The council is videoing and audio streaming this meeting live on the internet and making a recording. The recording forms part of the public record of the meeting and will be available on the council's website. Please note that it's the council's preference that where you're available to do so, you have your video switched on. Please remember what you say and do in this meeting has a global reach, and your words and actions should be chosen carefully. Can I also remind members, if possible, to wear their headsets while listening and speaking during the meeting? This will ensure that the audio quality is the highest possible quality and background noise is significantly reduced. There are some additional points for members and officers to be aware of. As part of the meeting etiquette, all microphones apart from mine will be placed on mute at the start and during the meeting. I will run through the agenda in the customary way. When you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. I will then invite you to speak in order the hands being raised. Please remember to unmute yourself to speak and mute yourself when you have finished. Please ensure all mobile devices are switched off to prevent interference with the audio and video system. If any attendee loses connection, the meeting will be paused to assert if the connection can be restored quickly. If it's not possible to recover the connection within a reasonable amount of time, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum of subcommittee member remains available to hear the proceedings and be heard. Are there any questions about the procedures before we continue?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you. Item 2, apologies for absence.
Yeah, we received an apology for Mr. Aris Trezin, who was going to be one of the public representations from Environmental Health.
Okay, thank you, James. Name substitutes? None? Declarations of interest. Are there any Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 or other interests to be declared for the items on the agenda today? Could you please do this by raising your virtual hand, and I will then ask you to speak to notify the meeting which item you have an interest in and the nature of that interest.
No.
No, can't see anybody. Thank you. Right, on to item 5. Application for a variation of premises license in respect of Shooters Bar, Grafton House, Burgess Street, Lancaster, HR6 8DE, and the Licensing Act of 2003. To consider an application for a variation of the premises license. Orders of speakers. Emma Bowell on behalf of the licensing authority, public representatives if in attendance, Dr. Jacqueline Murray, Mr. Aris Therese, Miss Elizabeth Lofton, Councillor Jenny Bartlett, Councillor Trish Marsh, and I think we've got Julie Debbage, I think he's the town clerk for Lancaster. I do apologise if I've said your names wrong. Right. Right. So, and sorry, applicant, I think we got Nick Semper, the licensing guys, on behalf of the applicant. Right. I would like to start the meeting. Sorry, I'm going wrong here. No, that's correct. I would like Emma Bell to start with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair rightly said, this is an application for a variation of a premises licence in respect of Shooters Bar, Grafton House, Burgess Street in Lancaster under the Licensing Act 2003. The recommendations is that the subcommittee determine the application with a view to promote the licensing objectives in the overall interest of the local community. It should give weight to steps that are appropriate to promote those licensing objectives, representations, including any supporting information presented by all parties, the guidance issued to local authorities under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, and the Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025. And the reasons for these recommendations ensures compliance with the Licensing Act 2003. There are a number of options open today to the subcommittee. One would be grant the licence subject to conditions that are consistent with the operating schedule. Grant the licence to modified conditions to that of the operating schedule. Exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates. To refuse to specify a person in the licence as the premises supervisor, or to refuse the application. The application for variation has received relevant representations and is therefore brought before the subcommittee for determination. Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025 states all representations must be relevant. For example, they must be about the likely effect of the grant of the application. This followed paragraph 8.57 in the Section 182 guidance. So the details of the application are: the application is Shooters Bar Limited, agent is the licensing guys. 28-day consultation started on the 27th of January 2022, and the 28-day consultation ended on the 23rd of February 22. The application, Appendix 1, requests the variation of the premise licence to allow the following: live music extended until 0100 hours, Thursday to Saturday. Recorded music extended to 0200 hours, Thursday and Sunday, and 0430 hours on Friday and Saturday. Late night refreshment extended to 0230 hours, Sunday to Wednesday, 0300 hours on Thursday, and 0445 hours, Friday and Saturday. Sale of alcohol to commence at 0900 hours every day to allow occasional darts and snooker tournaments. Sale of alcohol extended to 0200 hours, Sunday to Wednesday, 0230 hours on Thursday, and 0430 hours Friday and Saturday. Opening hours 0900 hours to 0230 hours, Sunday to Wednesday, 0300 hours on Thursday, and 0500 hours on Friday and Saturday. All hours on Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, and bank holiday weekend Sundays, as per the usual Friday and Saturdays, and the facility to screen occasional live sporting events outside standard hours. Under the Licensing Act 2012, as amended, an alcohol licensed premises can have live and/or recorded music from 0800 to 2300 hours for up to 500 people, without the need for these activities to be on the premises license. A copy of the current license is attached to Appendix 2, and that can be found within this report. Summary of representations include: one representation has been received from one of the responsible authorities, that being Environmental Health, and can be found at Appendix 3. Correspondence between the applicant's agent and Environmental Health Officer in regards to representation can be found at Appendix 4. 4 relevant representations have been received from members of the public that the licensing authority has accepted as being relevant, and that can be found at Appendix 5. The slight premise history here is the premise was first licensed in 2005 and was known as RERAC. On the 30th of March 2011, an application to grant a premise license was received, and the premises was renamed as Shooters. The license was granted in June 2011. On the 5th of November 18, a transfer application was received to transfer the name to the license holder of Shooters Bar Limited, and this was issued on the 29th of November 18. On January 19, An application was received to vary the premises designated premises supervisor, also known as DPS, into the name of Jonathan Rudge, and this license was issued in February 19. On the 15th of May 19, an application was received to vary the premises license to increase the licensable activity timings. The application received relevant representation, and therefore the matter was decided at licensing subcommittee on the 5th of July 19, where the decision was to grant the variation with additional conditions as agreed with environmental health. Any decision may have an impact on the local community. The report is in relation to a premise license under the Licensing Act 2003, and as such, there are minimal environmental impacts for the council and as a licensing authority. There's a quality duty that's set out in this report, and there are likely to be any financial implications to the council as a licensing authority at this time. The legal implications are set out in this report, and your legal advisor can advise on these further. There is a right of appeal. Appeals should be made to the Magistrates' Court and must be made within 21 days beginning with the day on which the appellant was notified by the licensing authority of the decision appealed against. All responsible authorities and members of the public living within Herefordshire have been consulted. Appendices 1 to 5 can be found at the back of this report, and since the report has been published, there have been a number of supplemental information that has been published along with it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions at the moment?
No.
Right, so we'll go on to Jacqueline Amoni. Sorry, sorry, Jacqueline.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm representing Environmental Health, and Environmental Health received consultation about an application for a variation in the licensing permit for Shooters Bar, and we received this on the 29th of January. Shooters is an entertainment venue located in the middle of the nighttime economy area of Lancaster and is located one side of a public car park. And there are a mixture of businesses and pubs and music venues and some close noise sensitive residential areas in the vicinity of the premises as well. And historically, and concerns that we did have, that there was a further extension of the opening hours would move into more noise sensitive times. And then we have had historic complaints from the premises, and we also had concerns about the structure of the premises. So we feel, Environmental Health feel, we have clearly communicated all of these concerns and advice over this consultation. So turning to this application, from the information provided in the premises variation application, it appeared that changes had been made to the premises to reduce noise emanating from the venue. So as case officer, it was reasonable to assume that the noise management plan had been updated to reflect this, and the applicant was contacted to supply the updated document to us. I wrote on the 9th of February, and as time limits were in place and no response was received, a representation was therefore made on the 16th of February. The applicants were informed of this, and also arranged a visit date to the premises for the 24th of February. We received a 2-page noise management plan on the 17th of February. And on reading the document, it was deemed not to be suitable or sufficient. So the Environmental Health responded to the applicants on the 23rd of February, providing comments to assist the applicants and asking them to provide us with another noise management plan, an update. And the site visit was also undertaken on the 24th of February. So on that occasion, we walked the premises, the Environmental Health officers walked the premises, spoke to the applicants and the owner, and it was stressed to them that all procedures had to be clearly written down on the noise management plan. And so at that stage, the applicants had my comments on the draft noise management plan and also the comments from the 2 officers during our visit on the 24th. And in addition, I sent a noise management plan guidance documents. I sent noise management plan documents to the applicants as well. We received a revised noise management plan document on the 2nd of March. And again, this was disappointingly, again, deemed to be neither suitable nor sufficient. And considering all the trouble we'd gone to provide assistance and comments. After discussion with Environmental Health colleagues, a second response to this effect was sent on the 13th of March 22. And again, we enclosed noise management plan guidance documents as well as our comments. At the time of speaking, Environmental Health awaits the receipt of a suitable and sufficient updated noise management plan. And again, to reiterate, we feel we have clearly communicated and advised over this consultation plan, the noise management plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Any questions so far from any members? Councillor Polly Andrews?
Yes. Do I understand then that there is currently no noise management plan acceptable noise management plan in place?
We're not in possession of what we deem to be a suitable and sufficient noise management plan.
Thank you.
Could I interrupt again? I'm sorry. I meant to add that Environmental Health has said that if we do receive and approve a suitable and sufficient noise management plan, then we would have no objection to any extension of the hours, as we would be confident that any noise issues emanating from the premises would be prevented and suitably addressed then by actions that can be taken by the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Any Councillor Tony Johnson, any comments at this time? No. Right. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Am I right in saying that Aris is not here?
No. I was attending with Aris.
Right, that's fine.
And Elizabeth Loughlin is here.
Yes, okay.
Well, yeah.
I'll go on to Elizabeth. Thank you.
I'm just here. I'll just reiterate what Jacqueline has said. We've got concerns about the location. We have concerns about previous history. Also, with this is further sort of exaggerated by the fact that there's an extension to the hours into noise-sensitive hours, which is taking you into the middle of the night. So we would want to see sufficient management controls presented to us to give us confidence that the management were able to control these the music and these concerns. And to date, we haven't received that.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Any
Well,
questions? Yeah.
Sorry, Chairman, there was one question.
Carry on.
Let me see, to the environmental health officer. Is she aware of any, does she expect the noise management plan to arrive at her office? Have arrangements been made for it to get to her, or are we still awaiting response from the applicant?
We're still awaiting a response from the applicants.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, then. Next on my list is Councillor Jenny Bartlett. She is here as a member of the public. Sorry. She is a ward member in Leominster, but she is classed as a member of the public in this meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I have put a submission in, as you're aware. It's with the pack. I haven't got concerns about all of the variations. It's just specifically the extension of the late night hours, the late night sale of alcohol, late night refreshment, and late night playing of live and recorded music, particularly around to 5 o'clock in the morning. There is a disco that goes on until I think under the conditions that the license they've got at the moment, until quite late at night. There's nothing to say that wouldn't be extended to 4:45 either, although it doesn't say that it will, it doesn't say that it won't either. I think for me, a lot of it is around not so much the noise and noise management plan, because I'll leave that with environmental health, but it is very much around the information that I've put down about the fact that there have been regular reports to the Town Council, and there have also been police incidents as well, of which I'm aware that there have been at least 4 grade 1 category blue light police incidents that reference Shooters Bar, 3 of which were assaults. And when I look at the appendix that gives I think it's the timeline And so on the 11th of the 1st, 2022, there was a meeting with the police at Shooters, liaison with PT Chris Lee, to discuss performance, re-crime, antisocial behaviour and any other licensing matters. There were no issues. And the discussion of the forthcoming variation of the application and copy provided, scrutinised in depth, no issues identified on grounds for representation to the police, makes me wonder, because when I look at my representation, when I reference the responses less than level 1, and then I cross-reference that with the police map that's available to all the public on the web, it shows that over the last 6 months, there have been actually 23 incidents at this location where Shooters Bar is on the corner of Central Car Park, 12 violent sexual offence category offences, 12 violent sexual offence category offences, 5 antisocial behaviour offences, 3 vehicle crime offences, 2 public order offences and 1 burglary offence. And I understand it's quite difficult to find the correlation sometimes, but it makes me think 6 months since August of last year, when we were pretty much only just more or less pulling ourselves back out of lockdown. 23 incidents in 6 months at that location on the police website strikes me as an indication that what is being said by people has merit and should be taken on board and should be taken that there is a problem here. And so, as I say, I am not against everything that they've asked for. I'm finding it very difficult to correlate 23 incidents over 6 months, 12 of which are violent sexual offence category, 5 are antisocial behaviour, 3 are vehicle crime, 2 are public order offences, and 1 is a burglary offence at this location.
Okay.
And that's my main concern. And that's why I don't think the 3 variations to that lateness of night is not going to have a knock-on effect, particularly in terms of the fact that at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, it's going to be attracting people from a wider area. Again, very difficult to correlate that will then become a problem. But it puts it that then on a par with nightclub opening times that we've got in the Hereford city. And without any of, as I can see, enough conditions or satisfaction that it would not exacerbate problems that we've already got here. And that's my main concern, and that's why I don't want those 3 variations. So I think that's probably the main point that I want to make. Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Jenny Bartlett. Members, have we got any questions or any comments to any of our, obviously, licensing officer or environmental health or anybody else on what Councillor Bartlett has just said? Yes, Councillor Polly Andrews.
Yes, I mean, how many of these offences have been specifically related to shooters? I mean, I understand it's in an area surrounded by, from what we've been told, surrounded by other venues of entertainment and drinking. I mean, how many of these premises do we know are specifically related to people who are patrons of shooters?
I've been advised that would need to be a Freedom of Information Act to the police, which I didn't have time of not being able to do before this hearing, given the timescales. The map shows this as the point on that, located on the corner of the car park and Burgess Street. Now, there are other dots around Lancaster, yes, but this is the dot that's specifically rated here. It doesn't say that it is, and it doesn't say that it isn't. The only direct reference I've got and this is why I don't understand the timeline, quote, is the only reference I've got is that there was specifically 4 category 1 blue light incidents that specifically referenced Shooter's Bar.
Okay, thank you.
And of those 3, of those 4, 3 of those were assaults.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on that, Emma? Or
No, just as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So calls attributed to the premises for West Mercia Police could be anything from disorder inside the premises, or from someone who's been assaulted up the road and gone in there to use a phone to say, I need the police, I need an ambulance, etc. And obviously that will just get attributed to that premises.
okay, thank you, Emma. Is that okay, Polly? Any questions, Councillor Johnson? No. Okay, thank you very much. Next on my list is Councillor Trish Marsh. If you'd like to say anything, Councillor, you're on mute. Still on mute?
Yes, that's right. Just fighting with my cursor. I'm in touch because a number of members of the public have been in touch with me, including one of our town councillors who lives very nearby. She reported that on the 26th of February and on the 5th of March, ambulance and police attended before 10 p.m. and she has photos of them from her window. She is one of very many residents who are directly very near to shooters, and many of them are above the shop, and many of them, to be truthful, are not. They are poorly sound insulated. They are likely to have single glazing. They may well have old and ill-fitting windows, and they are very vulnerable to noise disturbance. My respondent said that often there is shouting till 4 o'clock in the morning. Often difficulties are expressed on Facebook, which obviously is frustrating for this, because then they don't appear on either shooter's log or the police log. So obviously there needs to be some coaching of residents, but nevertheless, it seems unlikely that they're making those up. And there's often disturbance based around the car park with cars going around the block noisily. And as Councillor Bartlett said, there's noise in a car park can easily affect the neighbours. And although I'm really not at all clear whether the noise management plan affects the outside of the building, the policy mentions the dispersal procedure, and certainly the experience of residents is that people who are troublesome are very effectively dispersed out of shooters, but then tend to hang around the streets and cause a nuisance, both a noise nuisance and often after Friday or Saturday nights, there's damage to local premises, which I think our clerk will also be able to give more details on. Another local resident who lives in High Street has had long-term difficulties with disturbance and mentions fighting, kicking, vandalising cars. And I have considerable concerns about extending this to 5 o'clock in the morning, especially as for a significant portion of the year, 5 o'clock in the morning will actually be broad daylight. And it's quite possible that people will then continue. I'm also concerned about off sales of alcohol right up to either 2:30 or 4:45, which means people may well take alcohol out of shooters. Obviously, this will contribute to them becoming more inebriated, and also is quite possibly a litter issue for the appearance of the town. And generally, we wouldn't expect our town council staff to be available on Saturday or Sunday morning. So this gives a very difficult impression to daytime users of the town. I'd just like to point out that we have no street pastors in Lancaster, and that I very much doubt that many police officers are on duty from 2 till 5 a.m. It's really very difficult to get police officers to attend Leominster anytime after 10 p.m. And this is of grave concern to residents.
Okay.
I'm also somewhat concerned about litter caused by the late night refreshment, which again will be running till 2:30 a.m. or 4:45 p.m. It seems again likely that people may take food out and cause difficulties. And I'm also concerned that on Boxing, that the idea that on all the bank holidays, that including Christmas Day, there will be opening till 5 a.m. seems to me an enormous strain on residents who will be, one hopes, enjoying a well-deserved break. And I'd particularly point out that Boxing Day is followed by a normal working day. So personally, I would ask you not to extend till 5 a.m. And if you are moved to do that, to do it on a trial basis once a month or something like that, so that we can actually see what happens in practice.
Okay.
Once a month would be enough for people to look forward to and enjoy, and we would be able to see whether they could do that in a responsible manner, both inside the venue and outside the venue. And I would like to just finish by saying that I know many people value shooters and enjoy what it has to offer. My concern is about the very late night aspect of the business and the behaviour of customers when most people are trying to go to sleep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. Members, have you any questions on that to Emma or anybody else? No?
Not from me, Chairman.
No. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Obviously, the applicant is here, but I've got Nick Semper.
Sorry, Councillor Andrews, I think we had the late notice of intent to speak from
I do
Julie
apologise. Me not read it. Sorry, the town clerk, Julie Debbage. Sorry, I do apologise. Thank you, Alice. Carry on, Julie.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, this was discussed at the Planning and Highways Committee meeting on the 7th of February, and the following comments were made and put into the format that you sent out, that the Town Council regularly receives reports of late night drunkenness and fighting on Central Car Park, and they've actually agreed to fund an additional CCTV on that car park because of the amount of complaints that they get. So it's been discussed at Team Leominster meetings, which it's a sort of meeting of the police, the CCTV, local businesses, the town council. And there's references to either fighting or the need for CCTV 16 times over the last 3 years. Our environmental staff go out and clean the streets from 6 o'clock Monday to Friday, and they often report broken glass in the vicinity of that area of the car park, and lots of cigarette ends indicating that people have all been congregating in one place overnight. There's a large number of residential properties close to the bar, and most of them are sort of in period buildings without the benefit of double glazing. And I echo Councillor Marsh's comments that one of our town councillors lives close by and regularly hears disturbance from that venue. I've also received a complaint from a member of the public with young children who referred to the fire doors being left open in warm weather, making it really noisy in that area at night, late at night, and causing a disturbance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie Debbage. Any questions from members? No. Right. Okay. Thank you very much. On to Nick Semper now from the licensing guys on behalf of the applicant.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Now, this application refers to Shooters Bar, an established operation taken over by Mr. Rudge at the end of 2018, as Emma kindly explained. It then underwent a comprehensive programme of improvements in soundproofing in 2019. Now, I must thank Emma for the excellent summary of the application found that you can that she's done, that you can find on page 13 of your report, 13 of your reports. The applicant is asking for some extra hours, and I will explain why. Right, first one. Shooters is the home of Lancaster Charity Darts League. They hold darts championships on a regular basis, and the prize money attracts players from across the country. These start at 9 o'clock in the morning and last into the night. We'd like to be open at the start of that event, or those events, please. Secondly, every year or so, there will be an international sporting event or series of sporting events like World Cup, Rugby World Cup, boxing, what have you, that occurs the other side of the world and being broadcast live by satellite. Now, each time that happens, we have to apply for TENs. And we've done that on quite a few occasions. These have been used on several occasions in the past, sometimes with a terminal hour up until 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, not once has there ever been one counter notice, an objection, a complaint from any neighbour, or in fact, any issue whatsoever. Now, that sporting events facility, as applied for, is used elsewhere at premises across Herefordshire to avoid all the duplication, administration and expense entailed in applying for those temporary event notices. And therefore, it is not an unreasonable request that we apply for that facility too. Now, we'd also like to be able to stay open longer on odd occasions at night. And these occasions occur actually very rarely, in truth, whereby the applicant will get to the end of his allotted hours at that club, and his customers are sometimes sometimes still on the premises, and they ask him if they can stay on for another hour. Now, historically, in small county towns, it was a practice to pull the curtains, turn the music down, and then let the customers out of the back door at home time. That was your typical county town lock-in. Okay, who knows? That may still occasionally happen at some premises, even in Leicester. But look, never at Shooters, where Mr. Rudge is assiduous in managing his premises in complete accord with and to the letter of his premises license. That's why he's asking for that facility to stay open for an extra hour. Now, as a result of his proactive management of these premises, there have been two principal outcomes evident today. Firstly, he's attracted zero attention from the responsible authorities, and zero noise complaints have been lodged with the council noise team since that noise insulation was fitted. And secondly, his near neighbours, who have all given statements, have recognised his efforts and considerable expenditure to improve and soundproof his premises, so much so that they have rallied around to provide those statements to evidence that his statements caused them no issues whatsoever. Indeed, he has earned and no doubt deserves their support. Now, the Section 182 guidance states at para 9.43, and I'm quoting to you now, that the authority's determination, i.e. your decision today, should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate to the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what it is intended to achieve. I repeat, the authority, i.e. your determination here today, must be evidence-based. Therefore, let us examine the evidence, please. Noise nuisance. There is no evidence before you of any noise complaints received by the council noise team since Mr. Rudge took over the management and refurbishment of that club. End of. Secondly, there are, however, those 5 statements of truth from the club's nearest neighbours, one as near as 8 feet away. He lives 8 feet away from the back of that club, stating that there is zero noise nuisance emanating from Shooters. Moreover, several of these witnesses do give testimony as to where the noise nuisance is coming from, and it is not Shooters. The original requirement to serve the noise management plan arose from a variation granted by your good committee in 2019, which proposed events only on a Thursday night, and the requirement for a noise management plan only applied to those same Thursday night events, which is clearly shown in the email of the 1st of July 2019 between myself and Mr. Trezins of the Environmental Health Department. It transpired that a noise management plan was indeed served on the council by the applicant on the 21st of August 2019. That is evidenced and accepted by Environmental Health. Mr. Rudge never received a reply from Environmental Health to that submission, but that is not his fault. You may ask why we never chased the response from Environmental Health. Well, we did talk to Mr. Trezins on occasions in passing, and no issues were reported. But secondly, the applicant, Mr. Rudge, has never run an event as described in that condition on a Thursday night either, period. Therefore, there was no pressing need to obtain the sign-off of the noise management plan in any event. Now, the Environmental Health representation is that we have not served an updated replacement noise management plan upon them following our extensive programme of soundproofing and insulation. I'm not sure that why we had to, as A, we have never run a Thursday night event as per that condition, and B, we have actually improved the sound insulation of our premises, and C, we have not added anything in or to those premises that will give any further potential for noise issues. And furthermore, please look closely at the current licence, because nowhere in it is there any requirement to update any noise management plan anywhere in that document before you. Consequently, Mr. Rudge, the applicant, is not in breach of any of his premises licence conditions, as the representation claims, and neither is this evidence that the applicant has undermined or failed to promote the licensing objectives regarding public nuisance, ever. Okay, now Environmental Health now decided that they do not object to the content and effect of this entire variation, and we're pleased to hear that. Now they simply want a condition placed on the licence that there should be a noise management plan created and agreed by them prior to this variation, if granted, ever taking effect. But Chair, your imposition of any conditions on this premises licence today must be based on evidence and founded in proportionality. What is the ill that Environmental Health are trying to remedy here? Where is the evidence of any noise nuisance that will give them the grounds to insist upon a new noise management plan, along with the unilateral facility for them to block the effects of this variation, should they deem that document to be deficient in any way, that deficiency being of their own choosing and on their own terms? We therefore very respectfully question, most strongly, whether Environmental Health can even lawfully insist upon this condition, demand and requirement. Okay, so that's the noise things, that's a reference Environmental Health dealt with. And I'm going to talk to you about crime and ASB on the central car park. Now, the other representations, albeit they come from very good people, refer to crime, disorder and antisocial behaviour around Leominster Town Centre, for which the applicant has been assumed to be in some way responsible. For example, we are told of a litany of smashed windows in Leominster Town Centre every Friday and Saturday night in Mrs. Lockett's representation. But there is no evidence brought here to explain when and where this has happened, or to support the conclusion that this has anything to do with us or our clientele. In fact, looking at the published crime statistics online on the Home Office UK crime mapper that the most excellent Councillor Bartlett referred to, we are unable to identify the basis of such a claim of such large volumes of damage. Okay, we are told of residents near to Central Car Park being disturbed by loud noise and marauding drunken people. However, there is no evidence of this before you. Yes, you have some hearsay, yet we have 5 signed witness statements of the nearest neighbours who testify that A, it is not happening to the extent alleged, and B, that Shooters is not causing it, and or C, Shooters is not in any way responsible for any of it. Now, we're told that the town council regularly receives reports of late night drunkenness and fighting on the car park outside the premises. Okay. I've read the minutes of Lancaster Town Council back as far as I can online. That's back to the 18th of May, 2020, and can find no mention of Shooters specifically whatsoever in any of them. We do note the initiative to fit CCTV on Central Car Park. We absolutely support and welcome that, by the way, as we have nothing to fear from it and firmly believe that it will exculpate us from the lingering and misdirected finger of suspicion that we are in any way responsible for it. Incidentally, we do have a very comprehensive CCTV system that works in the light and dark and covers as much of Central Car Park as we are permitted to surveil the public space in accordance with the ICO, that's the Information Compliance Officer's guidance. We regularly share our footage with the police in furtherance of their investigations and initiatives. And we provided a map of that coverage, which you will find as a very late addendum to the documents pack. And we really must also use this opportunity to commend Mr. James Vickery for the way that he's compiled those documents at quite late notice. Thank you. We've been told that the minutes of Team Lancaster contain evidence of reports of fighting on Central Car Park. As these minutes have been offered up as evidence against us, we've asked for copies, but we're told that they're confidential. So we've asked for redacted copies, but we're told that there simply isn't time enough to redact them. Therefore, I respectfully ask that you discard the minutes or the reference to the minutes of Team Lancaster meetings as a source of evidential support against this application. Now, we are the only licensed premises in Lancaster that put on an SIA door team every single weekend. Our team monitor the outside of the premises, including the smoking area, and do not go home until everyone has left the area at the end of the night. There is talk of broken glass on Central Car Park, seemingly coming from our premises. Well, I've got 3 things to say on that. Firstly, our current noise management plan prohibits customers from even passing out of our doors of our premises with unsealed drinks after 2200 hours at night, even to smoke in the smoking area. This is rigidly enforced by the team of 3 SIA door supervisors. Otherwise, guess what? Customers will be standing outside drinking and smoking until all hours. And this control measure prevents just that happening. Okay. Secondly, the representative clearly doesn't know that our drinks are served at night in polycarbonate vessels, i.e. shatterproof glassware. Any broken glass anywhere in the vicinity of Central Car Park simply isn't ours. It can't be. It's impossible. Thirdly, if we, i.e. the team of shooters, become aware of any broken glass in our vicinity on that car park during our opening hours, no matter where it originated from, then one of our team go out and sweep it up. This is our standard operating procedure. Now, there is also a suggestion that the fire doors are left open in the summer. Well, we completely deny this and would like to examine any evidence that claims that we do. Mr. Rudge has installed £14,000 worth of air conditioning in the premises, which is also extremely expensive to run. And you'll all be aware that air conditioning does not work if the doors are left open. Now, that secure door is covered by 24-hour CCTV. In fact, it's covered by 2 channels if you look at that, 2 separate sets of cameras. If you look at the CCTV map coverage, right? So any suggestion that we leave it open can very easily be exploded. Okay, another representation cites police data of 4 Grade 1 calls, the central car park, which reference Shooter's Bar, and in 3 cases refer to assaults. We maintain that some of these incidents have occurred when members of the public have pitched up at Shooters, us being open, and have reported being assaulted elsewhere, thus causing us to call the necessary medics, and the consequent assault report being filed by the police, geolocated and gazetteered to our premises. And in that, I'm extremely grateful to Emma Bowell, because she absolutely nailed it in her explanation to you earlier on. But I do have something important to say on this too. I do not know the source or provenance of that police data. But what I do know is this. There is only one officer that I'm aware of who has the written authority, the Chief Constable, to represent the force on licensing matters in Herefordshire. And that person is the Police Licensing Officer, PC Chris Lee. I'm unclear as to whether he is the source of this unattributed data, and therefore question its provenance. Now, para 2.1 of the section 182 guidance states that licensing authorities should look to the police as the main source of advice on crime and disorder. We agree with that, because we certainly did, because we met with the police licensing officer to explain our intentions prior to submitting the application and gave him a copy of our intended variation. The police licensing officer asked all his usual probing questions and then went away, looked at it for a fortnight, and then confirmed that the police could find no grounds to object to the variation as applied for in its entirety. It is therefore the inescapable, logical conclusion that the police, being the lead agency to inform you on crime and disorder and ASB issues, are satisfied that the premises and the operating schedule, which they have seen and examined, is capable of promoting the licensing objectives and will not undermine them. Else they are statutorily bound to be here, armed with evidence, to argue vehemently against this application. Clearly they are not here. But what I can tell you is this, I'm grateful to Councillor Bartlett for raising some issues. And in fairness, she says, she cannot, it's a question of attribution. On the figure she's quoted, there's no time parameters or details, that they are all absent, rightly so, because it's a public site. She says she's had no time to put in an FOI request. Well, here you go. What I can tell you is this, from the ongoing liaison that we have with the police, there have been 22 incidents recorded on the police system since July 2019. Being the date of the last variation of these incidents that reference shooters. So if you set that against the time parameter of the 33 months that have elapsed during that period, right, there has been one incident recorded on police systems every 45.6 days that mention shooters. Now, of those 22 incidents, 18, a whopping 82% of them are recorded by the police as positive entries, i.e. the club management have done nothing wrong and have acted entirely properly in order to promote the licensing objectives. Now, clearly I've zoned in on the 4 other incidents shared with us by the police, which weren't recorded as positives, okay? Now, they are actually neutral, in that the officer has not recorded it as a positive, but conversely, they are not recorded as negative either with regards to any failure to promote the licensing objectives. It's also been suggested that all these crimes, disorder and noise nuisance figures will be low due to everywhere being mainly closed over the last 3 years due to COVID. Again, that is simply erroneous. Shooters was closed on the 23rd of March 2020 as part of the nationwide lockdown. They reopened on the 4th of July 2020. Then they got closed again on November the 5th until the 2nd of December. That's what was termed the circuit breaker. I don't know if you remember these terms, probably. And it was closed again when Christmas was cancelled on the 26th of December 2020 and reopened on the 17th of May 2021. Therefore, Shooters has been closed for 8 months in the last 33. Therefore, this means that Of the 25 months that they've been open, there has been less than one incident per month recorded mentioning shooters, and of them, 82% of those recorded incidents are positive. As the principal nighttime operator in the town, that is an astonishingly low and reassuringly positive statistical piece of statistical evidence. Sorry, I got the sentence mixed up there. Now, the police can tell us of no incidents of broken windows in Leicester town centre where the actual or alleged perpetrator has been linked to shooters. We are not aware of the times and dates of these incidents of criminal damage have not been apprised of them either, so we cannot assist you further. But it appears that representations made against this application are not evidence-based, but are founded on fear and speculation. Now, your legal advisor may assist you in directing your attention to the dictum of Her Honour Justice Black in the Daniel Thwaites and Wirral Magistrates case, which sets binding precedent and explains that your decision-making should be actuated by real evidence of actual problems. So, I'll finish where I started, please. This is an evidence-based decision-making process. There is no empirical evidence before you that these alleged crime, disorder, and noise nuisance issues, if they exist, are linked to shooters. If there was that evidence, well, there just isn't. So thus the theory that shooters is the source of massive crime, disorder, and noise nuisance reports since Mr. Rudge took over is baseless. On the contrary, we assert that Mr. Rudge is a responsible operator who runs a reputable business supporting local charitable causes and promoting the licensing objectives on every step of the way. We have provided evidence of his nearest neighbours to support that position. I therefore submit that you can have complete confidence that he will continue to run his business in the same way as he has done since he took over, causing no issues to his near neighbours or the responsible authorities. And therefore, I respectfully ask you to grant this modest variation in the terms within which it's been sought. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Semper. Any of the committee got any questions regarding what Mr. Semper said? No. Polly? Councillor Polly Andrews?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Semper, for that very comprehensive piece of information. But we were told that before you spoke that environmental health had not yet received a noise management plan that was acceptable. What is your comments about that?
Hi, ma'am. I've addressed you comprehensively on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether it would help for us to send you our submission. It's been quite a long one, our submission in writing, so you can work your way through it. If you'd like me to zone back on the bit, we did serve a noise management plan in 2019. We never received a response to that. We weren't particularly bothered about that because that noise management, the requirement to provide a noise management plan refers only to a specific event on a Thursday night. We have never run that specific event on a Thursday night. Now, the council, the environmental health now want us to put in a replacement one. Well, there is nothing in the license that says we need to. There's nothing in the license that says we have to put in a replacement one, and there is nothing, and there is no noise complaints to warrant us putting in a replacement one. You know, I don't want to. I mean, I can give you the whole reasoning behind it again. I think some of you may have got it, but
I think we've heard it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I think, thank you, Mr. Semper. I think environmental health would like to.
I'm afraid, Councillor,
they can't.
They can't.
No, sorry.
No.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, Councillor
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes, just one, please, Chairman. Mr. Semper's last comment was that there was nothing in the statutory requirements that asked them to submit a noise management plan.
No, that's not
But common sense, I beg you, I hope in case I...
No, so that's not what I said. There's nothing in the premises. There's nothing in the premises license.
Thank you.
And we've been accused of being...
It doesn't change...
Yeah, so I think it's absolutely. I don't want to talk about what you said, but I just want to make sure you've understood what I said.
Okay.
The EHO representation.
Okay, can I stop you there? It really doesn't change the nature of my question. Let me put that to you first, and then you may choose to respond. Given that common sense would suggest that the likelihood of excessive noise is proportional to the, not just to the total number of hours, but the distribution of those hours. The later you go on in the night and the early hours of the morning, the greater the likelihood that something like this could occur. Could occur is what I say. Given that as a background, what would your reaction be to being asked to provide a noise management plan as a condition of granting of this license?
So I made a comprehensive thing about this, a submission about this. I don't think if we were causing a noise problem, then I think there are grounds to ask for a noise management plan. I've given you comprehensive evidence that we are not causing a noise problem from the 5 nearest neighbours, near neighbours around that location.
But neither have you been operating for the hours that you're now requesting.
Yes, sir. Well, we're getting into the areas of speculation that we don't, whereby we don't create a noise nuisance up to 4 o'clock, but if we stay open till 4:30, we will. Okay, I am not sure that we will. Okay. As it happens, we have been provided an updated noise management plan, even though we've made it clear from the beginning that we don't think we have to. Okay, we will continue to try and meet the expectations of the Environmental Health Department about their noise management plan, but the imposition of a condition when there are no grounds to put that condition is not proportionate to put that condition on. There's no reasons, and then double up that requirement by saying you can't do what you want to do with this variation until we've agreed it. I think that's unreasonable. I think that's disproportionate, sir, and that's the point I'm making.
Well, thank you, Mr. Senator.
But sir, let me just say, work is going on to create a document that Dr. O'Mahony can sign off on. Okay, it's just that whether her not signing off on it is fatal to this variation. That's the issue I've got.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson, for your question as well. Thank you, Mr. Semper. No other questions from members?
No.
No? Okay, right. I'm just trying to gauge how long we think we should. Right. The subcommittee now adjourn. Do you think 3:30?
Past. It's
25 past 3.
It's now 3:05. If we say 20 past 3.
20 past.
Can we have I think you'll need a little bit longer than 15 minutes, Councillor Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alice with 25.
If we come back at 3:30, that seems reasonable.
3:30, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, right. I'd be grateful if you could please rejoin the meeting 5 minutes prior to the end of the adjournment in case there are any technical issues we need to be resolved. Remain in the meeting if you wish to. I would like to formally request the live stream is now paused and request the Democratic Services team. Right. Welcome back to the licensing subcommittee. Before I read out the decision of the subcommittee, could the subcommittee members verbally confirm that they are able to hear me, and I will confirm in response that I can hear you. Where practical, please also have your video switched on so that you can be seen by other members in attendance and the public watching. Councillor Polly Andrews.
Yes, Chairman, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. And I can hear and see you. Councillor Tony Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see and hear you clearly.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I can hear and see you clearly as well. Right. Thank you all about this. I'm going to read the decision. I hope I get this right. If not, I'm going to be in dead trouble. After hearing representatives that spoke today and having regard to all the written and verbal evidence submitted, it is the decision of the subcommittee to grant the variation of the license as applied for. As the subcommittee is granting this variation, we decided that it will not undervalue the 4 licensing objectives, which are prevention of crime and disorder and public nuisance. So that is the committee's decision. I thank you all for today, and I wish you a good weekend.
Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Semper.